Hi, welcome to San Francisco Weekly News. My name is Diane Wesley Smith. We are going to talk about at length and for some time until this problem is rectified. Actually, it's an atrocity. It's the contamination of the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard, where a lot of African American San Franciscans grew up, including myself. The picture that you see above, the picture there is a reflection of the contaminated sites at the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard. The Hunters Point Naval Shipyard is a prime piece of waterfront land in San Francisco and is slated for new development. But decades of naval operations contaminated the land, as many of us know. Despite a long and toxic history, you might be surprised to learn that just a portion of the shipyard was tested for radiation. The report logs possible contamination. The report logs possible contamination for each line, each of the impacted buildings, but there is no comprehensive map of the impacted drainage and sewer lines. So that means if you have poison running, toxic contamination running through pipes, they're running through pipes, right? Where are they going? Where did the runoff go? There's no chart for that yet. It is absolutely atrocious. So this picture, as I mentioned before, shows the contaminated sites. As you can see, it's very vast. This is Marie Harrison. Our city mourns the passing of Marie Harrison. Marie Harrison and I and many others Marie worked tirelessly. I did not work as tirelessly as Marie. I came in later as a real estate professional to assist in the 100% cleanup and accountability according to real estate law of the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard. Marie Harrison passed, and we mourn the passing of this passionate leader from our community in San Francisco of Bayview Hunters Point. Marie came to Bayview Hunters Point in 1966. I didn't know that until I researched it, but truly she was also a native. She loved our city as we natives love our city. And those of us that, there are many of us, some natives, some aren't. But there are many of us that love San Francisco. And Marie was an example because of that love for San Francisco. Why? Because she fought and died fighting the contamination in Hunters Point Naval Shipyard or the Hunters Point Navy Shipyard. She died fighting for 100% cleanup of toxic contamination. She fell into a coma and she died from complications due to interstitial lung disease, which is a condition that caused her to have the oxygen support. She was a tireless advocate. She was fighting for against the displacement of public housing residents and tenants, and PG&E, who has this huge power plant. We still have yet to find out the effects and the deaths related to the power plant. She pressed for transparency, and that's all any of us want. We want transparency. We want 100% cleanup of the contaminated Hunters Point Naval Shipyard, all construction, a moratorium on all construction, because it is not clean. It is not fit for human habitation. There's so many disparities, and through Marie Harrison's hard work, we began to find out details. She was a native of Kansas City, Missouri, but we claim her as one of our own, and she moved to the Bayview with her family, as I mentioned, in 1966. A lot of a lot of people worked at the toxic Hunters Point shipyard. That's where her father found work and mine. And later on, Marie spent several years working at the Hunters Point shipyard, which is a Superfund site. A Superfund site, please look up what is a Superfund site, because a Superfund site is an extremely polluted site, and there's a money allocated by the contaminators, in this case, the Naval Shipyard, and they are charged with 100% cleanup. During the cleanup at the Hunters Point PG&E site, they discovered folks from Kettleman City, which is the largest hazardous landfill in the United States, and that the contaminated soil from the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard was being sent to Kettleman City. And the soil contained PCBs, that's polychlorinated toxic materials. We want, and so we will carry on with Marie's fight, because her fight was our fight. Right now, it is strong. People are strongly advised, stay out of the Hunters Point shipyard because it's dangerous. Our heart goes out to those who have already purchased condos through that were built by Lennar and Five Point. We reached out to Lennar's Five Point Community Affairs Director LaShawn Walker to find out when we can expect 100% cleanup. When can we expect some information about the condition of the soil at Bayview Hunters Point Naval Shipyard? So far, we have not received any response from Miss LaShawn Walker, no relation to Charlie Walker, as the Community Affairs Director. Why can't we reach anyone? Why can't we get answers? Are they so bent? And I want to ask the mayor, how did this happen? You are the only one that, because this is your machine, we need your help now, the mayor. You've had a good life. You've helped many of us have a good life. But now even more than have been helped have been harmed. And we need the help of the mayor, Willie Brown, to fix this atrocious problem. The things that have been happening in San Francisco are heartbreaking. We know you still care. I would like to think so. So we need your help. We are officially asking that former Mayor Willie Brown, who was instrumental in the initial development and of the initial redevelopment in San Francisco and the gentrification, not that it was intentional. However, you're very influential. You know all the major players. And if you help us, the people of San Francisco, if you speak up for us and you speak up for this, if you speak up, it's so upsetting. Please excuse me if you speak up and request that the developers be held accountable. If you request that the Navy be held accountable. If you request that we have 100% cleanup of the toxic Hunters Point Navy shipyard. Would that be okay? Would you help us, Mayor Willie Brown? Toxic shipyard. So, let's talk about the shipyard a little bit more. This is what it looked like. Once it was the home to the U.S. military's nuclear lab. So, but contamination, falsified data, and a $27 billion class action lawsuit looms. Meanwhile, Lennar Five Point, under the directorship under the director of community affairs, is going forward with still selling land. They sent out an email through they sent out an email, and that was considered community outreach, and it only went to certain people, and they had 2 affordable units left, and they want to sell them. We say don't buy. It's contaminated, folks. They don't care, because why would they be? So when you see advertising done surreptitiously, what we call it on the down low, this is not, we need 100% transparency. Beginning in 1946, the Navy cleaned dozens of ships pummeled with radioactive debris during offshore atomic weapons tests and housed a nuclear defense laboratory with up to 108 radioactive isotopes. Those are particles at the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard. Let's talk about these particles. Okay, there was strontium. The shelf life, or the half-life, is 28.78 years. Plutonium, lots of it found. These are these are the isotopes. 24,000 years before, and that's just half. It says half-life, 24,000 years before plutonium has been removed. Celsium, 30 years. Radium, 1,599 years. These are radioactive particles or isotopes that cause cancer and death and have been doing so. We must have 100% cleanup at the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard before any other humans, any other people and pets are to live there. NBC investigation found, NBC Bay Area investigation found 91 locations that were contaminated, and these are some of the 91 locations. The Navy documents suggest that these activities may have contaminated dozens of locations across the shipyard, which is, again, as I mentioned, the federal Superfund site. The Navy says the impacted site represents a significant portion of the shipyard. It's unclear if the Navy has deemed any other sites to be potentially impacted by radioactive contamination. But I'm not really trusting the Navy right now. They need to establish some credibility. And right now, the only thing that we have, when we reached out to 5 Point, Lennar's, one of Lennar's companies or branches, when we reached out to them, you know what they had for us? They said, we received an email, and the emails, well, it was actually another email. You can't really see it clearly, but what this email says is, ask expert Dr. Higley. She's available to answer radiological health and safety questions. Dr. Catherine Higley, Community Technical Advisor in Radiological Health and Safety. We don't trust anyone that is appointed by the Navy. This is how we have this problem. And every time I look at Marie Harrison, you think we're supposed to trust? Look at this woman. She was only 71. This is the kind of contamination that this is a ship that was broke down and cleaned. The toxic materials and the radiation contained particles were scraped from ships like this into the bay. Again, we don't know where the drainage was. They said there was some drainage. We don't know where it is. In September, state health inspectors unearthed a radium deck marker in an area that was not identified in the initial Navy report. There again, the Navy does not have the credibility. We need independent people. We will not accept seeing anyone who is associated with the CAC, the Board of Supervisors, anyone, the Department of Public Health, the Navy. We want 100% independent investigation. If we knew the questions to ask, I'm actually insulted. Because if we knew the questions to ask, we would not have the issue of a contaminated site in our community that's polluting to this day. And the insult, do you think they could go to Chinatown with this mess? So we need to stop this. It's time for us to come together and stop this. People of all colors, because we all breathe the same air. We all need housing. We all have families. And our offspring, if you're an older adult as I am, I don't want my offspring living there or my lineage living anywhere on Hunters Point Shipyard where I grew up until there's 100% toxic cleanup. Therefore, I make a commitment to not sell any property. AAA, Bayview Real Estate and Community Services, will sell no property at the Hunters Point Shipyard, which is built by Lennar and Five Point, or even Candlestick Cove, until we have 100% cleanup. People deserve it. People deserve a safe, clean place to live. It is mandatory. The silver dollar-sized objects were commonly used throughout the Navy to light passageways. These little markers were found roughly 30 feet of the condos that are currently under construction. The Navy maintains that that portion of the shipyard where the deck marker was found had been used for military housing. But the object itself is made of rhenium. Okay? And other radioactive isotopes. This picture is a heavily damaged section of the USS Independence, which would later be housed at the Hunters Point Shipyard. The Navy originally planned to sell the ship after remediation. That means after cleaning it up. Instead, it was located with barrels of radioactive material and intentionally sunk off the coast of California. The ships targeted in these explosions were brought to Hunters Point, where workers sandblasted surfaces and remove radioactive material. And that's what I was referring to when looking at this picture. They have to remove the radioactive material. They also burned 600,000 gallons of radioactive fuel oil. The Operation Crossroads buildings and dumping grounds are listed as impacted in the Navy's radiological assessment and are connected to potentially dangerous radiation particles such as the cesium, plutonium, which takes over 25,000 years to be, and before it is completely untraceable. Radium, strontium, all of these are radioactive materials. They were found just, they were found just feet away, just several feet away from condos that are under construction right now. So I want to say again, to the Director of Community Affairs, why is Five Point Lennar constructing housing on radioactive sites? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. These are the kind of signs you see at the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard. Caution, radioactivity, hazardous to your health. People, these are very dangerous times that we're living in, and if we don't take care of ourselves, we will not be taken care of, because no one is coming, and we're the ones that we have been waiting for. It is time. It is time. We're past it. We all know it's time. Many of you have been showing up. A lot of you have been reaching out to us. A lot of you have been attending the meetings. But I say to you, demand that the mayor require 100% cleanup, because he's really the mayor. He has all the influence. Willie Brown can help us like no one else can. We will not let Marie Harrison's death be in vain, nor will we let our efforts be in vain, nor will we allow all of those who have died, who are suffering from asthma, from all sorts of lung-related, health-related issues, respiratory, I should say, issues, cancers, breast, colon, etc., premature deaths. Our people that grew up in Baby Hunters Point on average are living to 68 and 69 years old, maybe 70s. Can you live with that? Can you live with this woman having fought and died and people still living there in these contaminated sites? Keep out. It is hazardous. We want our own doctors to partner with objective specialists and give us their recommendations and give us, their findings, disclosed condition of the soil. We need them empowered and funded. The money is there. This is property, folks. Let me say to you, any property that's sold, one should know the condition of the land. This is crazy. It's illegal, but what is so much happening now that's illegal? But we have the power. Believe me, I've seen it, you've seen it. So, do what your heart tells you to do. Your heart's touching you right now. You're being touched and moved in a certain way. Do something about it. Just follow your heart. But let me say this. We cannot afford sellout people. We cannot afford people who, this is what I want to conclude with. What is a job if you don't have safe housing? We're being placated right now, folks. We have nonprofit organizations who are getting money on our behalf. They'll provide jobs, but no housing. I went to many nonprofit organizations and asked that we make sure that the land is clean, that there is real affordability. We have an affordability crisis, but before anything, we have to clean the land. Contamination. The land is contaminated for up to 2 miles in any given direction. So let us not be so greedy. Let's put people first. You can still make money. You can always have money. Believe me, I was taught that. That is my experience based on selling honestly. Honesty and integrity. This is what is called for. We need leadership. I'm not hearing the right people speak about housing. They talk about jobs. They talk about coats. They talk about backpacks. Lord knows we need it all. But these kids coming down from the hill, they're coming. How long will they live? Where will they live? What about their parents? The pie is incomplete. There's some people. So we have some great nonprofit organizations, but we need nonprofit organizations that encompass the entire aspect of human life. Okay? That's education, housing, jobs. There's a game being played and it's low down and dirty, and that's all I'm going to say right now on that matter. But if someone says jobs, ask them what about housing. How many people do we have right now with jobs that are living in their cars? Where are teachers living? Where are firemen living? Where are our police officers living? Because if they don't live here, they're not feeling us. If they don't know if they can't live in San Francisco, how can they love San Francisco? When you're able to live here and when you're able to live here and know people, and it's just you're gonna love where you live because you're gonna put your efforts into it. So this was a comment that someone sent to me. It says Hunters Point and its residents deserve. And this was from Corey Strell. I'll say Corey S. Hunters Point and its residents deserve proper soil testing for harmful radiation and honest concern for their health and safety. We cannot trust almost any of the evidence collected from the Navy or any of its affiliates. Our doctor, Ashima Porter, Sumshai. Excuse me if I didn't pronounce the last name correctly, but I'm going to call her Dr. Porter. She is a tireless advocate. We will not be happy if she does not lead the team. Why? Because she is a doctor, she has the information, the education, and she loves people. She's a tireless advocate. She worked very closely with, Dr. Porter worked very closely with Marie. They were both, and we still have the doctor, so we need the good doctor too. And she's the only one we can trust right now. If there are other people we can trust, please forward their names to us at info@aaabayviewrealestate.com. This is what Dr. Porter Sumshai said. As the founding chair of the Radiological Subcommittee of the Hunters Point Naval Restoration Advisory Board and contributor to the Historical Radiological Assessment, I take exception with the statement of the radium dial. She said, what she goes on to say is they're saying that found at the intersection of Galvez and Donahue, they're saying that it has not been radiologically impacted. And doctor says that is not true. She says north of where the radium dial was discovered are radiation contaminated landfills designated IR-07 and IR-018. Immediately across the street on Parcel B is Building 130. According to the HRA, Building 103 was used as an operations crossroads decontamination center for personnel. Building 103 is designated as radiologically impacted, and for many years the shipyard artists were sited in this building. Now, we haven't heard from the shipyard artists yet. But we know how they feel. They're fighting the good fight as well. But I didn't care. It was not right that they placated them. What they placate mean, instead of really giving you what you need, they give you something else. So they gave, the artists, of course, need housing because most artists are struggling. Community artists, certainly, but financially. So here they offered them the help. So that offered them housing. So the artists then had an organization, and they tried to get the artists to support using Hunters Point Shipyard. They tried to get the artists to say it's clean enough and this type of thing. In other words, they tried to buy the artists out. They tried to make the artists sellouts. Anyone that is against 100% cleanup of the Hunters Point Shipyard, and I know the artists are also, because they live there, I hope they get medical examinations, okay? Let's be safe. Everyone that's lived there, I get them regularly. Have an upcoming exam based on having grown up in that area, and certain monitors that I and many have to experience if we're still living, those of us that are still living. So anyway, folks, I want to thank you for joining me. 100% cleanup of the Hunters Point, of the contamination at the Hunters Point Naval Shipyard. Mandatory. If you're living there now, you have rights. There's a class action suit. Excuse me for laughing because it's not funny, but I made a mistake. I get emotional. I love you. I respect you. And if I don't know you, I definitely respect you and will treat you with respect and dignity. In the name of honesty and integrity. In the name of all that is decent and right in San Francisco. In the name of love. Peace. We'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us on San Francisco Weekly News. I'm Diane Wesley Smith, your community broker. Bye-bye now.